Balake. Where is Balake at?
My name's Blake.
Do you want to go to war, Balake? I'm for real. Aaron.
Aaron is here with special guest Ian Rafalco. How you doing, Ian?
I'm doing all right. How about you?
Good. That's my first time trying to play around with some intro video on a live stream, so we'll see on the replay if how that worked.
Yeah.
So for those who don't already know, I've interviewed, Ian and I have done an interview on my channel before. Ian's father is a Scientologist, YouTube, Keto celebrity, Dr. Eric Berg. And we covered a lot of ground on our first interview. So much ground, I almost I almost forget whether we delved into the money IAS aspect of the story or not. But you said that you wanted to talk about the IAS and the money raising aspect, and I want to give a little bit of an intro for the viewers. So, so guys, the IAS is the membership organization of Scientology, which really means almost nothing actually, other than it's honestly, Ian, what does it even mean, a membership organization? So
it's like a guarantee that, they can trust they can squeeze some money out of you. If you're not a lifetime member, they're either picking on you or comparing you to other people that you could be, more successful. Otherwise, just move aside. We have other people we have to worry about.
Yeah, I mean, when I say there's almost no point to it, it's like Scientology has a price list, and then there's like a 20% IAS discount, but you're not allowed to sign up for a Scientology course or auditing without becoming a member of the IAS. And you can get a free 6-month membership. And then what is it? $350 a year, $500 a year?
Yeah, something like that.
But anyway, so the IAS, what it's become is Scientologists think about it as Scientology's war chest. Like Scientologists donate millions and tens of millions of dollars to the IAS without really any clear understanding of what the IAS does with this money, but they take pride when they donate because they think of it as Scientology's war chest, that if Scientology were to come under any serious attack, the funds from the IAS that will protect Scientology. Now, you shared with me, let me see if I can figure out how to pull this up, a card that you would carry around, your IAS card, and a pin that indicated that your dad had donated over $2.5 million. It was platinum meritorious. I'm not going to be able to figure out how to share this. I already tried before the stream started.
It's fine. I actually have I have it right here. You can see it's a very fancy, it has a magnetic strip. You can never use this anywhere. This is the most useless piece of plastic I think I own. I found it and I kept it around at the time, and I found it in the back of some of my old things. But I remember asking, what can I do with this? And they're like, what do you mean, what can you do with it? And I guess I never really got a real answer, but nothing. You can give more money. There's no money on the card. It's basically something they roll out in the background or in the back of the IAS office and give you as like you're doing something.
Here, put the card up again real quick.
There, let's see.
Okay, so give it a sec to focus or something. Okay, I don't know if you can read it. It says platinum meritorious with honors.
They all look different. This one's the silver one.
It says platinum meritorious with honors, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So platinum meritorious is $2.5 million. Tom Cruise was the first person to ever be awarded the platinum meritorious. And so is platinum meritorious with honors 3, or is it more than 3?
From what I remember, it was 3. It was less than 5, because 5 I think is diamond or something. Diamond meritorious or something. With honors is the 0.5. So you'll have like a platinum meritorious, which would be I think 3, and then with honors adds that $500,000.
Right.
It's like an in-between status where they can keep you going. I mean, it goes as high as people donate. I remember at Flag in Florida, there's the IAS office has all the awards that they create for the statuses. Bob Duggan, who is probably one of the biggest donators to Scientology so far, they had to create new statuses for him. And one of them has a golden sword with glass flames, and it's like half my height. It's like, I'm 6'4", so it's massive, and they're littered with the walls and all with this promise, and they give you these little they give you all the knickknacks you need to make you feel like you've done something, but you're essentially just paying out of however many people. Like, you can't find out where the money goes, so it's more of a vanity project for them.
Right. One of the reasons talking about the IAS and how Scientology fundraises for the IAS is interesting is because it's one of the ways that Scientology begins to have sort of an MLM component. I mean, because Scientologists, I've spoken about, you can earn commissions in Scientology by bringing people into Scientology, and they pay for auditing and they pay for courses, and you can get like a 10% commission. But you can also get commissions, even more commissions, by direct fundraising for the IAS. If you just have any existing Scientology, like, okay, so your dad as a celebrity, Dr. Eric Berg could go to an IAS fundraising event, and he could get up in front and he could give his speech about how the IAS is saving the world, and that's why he supports the IAS. And he would get a commission for all of the donations that were made at that event because he helped raise the money. And it's one of the ways that high profile Scientologists earn money on the backs of other Scientologists who in many cases are donating more money than they can afford. They're taking on debt. They're putting money on credit cards. And this is one of the ways that people like your dad make money. So, like, was your dad pretty active in raising money for the IAS?
Not until he was pushed to go OT. He actually hated the IAS, coming around asking him for money constantly for a very long time. I remember he's very brush off about it. My mom was always the let's play the game and let's do this, and spending his money, and she spent a little too much and he was getting upset, but she pushed him. I remember she had this plan to surround him with more successful Scientologists, get him sort of in the mood to try. And then she basically said, take all the time you need, go to Flag. He went OT8 within, I think, 2.5 years or so from, and after that he came back and they did this whole promotional program where he then started to, he became an opinion leader, especially this was around the time his, the influencer economy was like really booming, and he was slipping in and making more money from his health products. And once my mom realized that he was a big opinion leader in OL for the field of DC, like the people, all the public Scientologists in DC, which is a relatively small group, and beyond, he was asked to do more events. And I'm not exactly sure how many events he did, but he does still do a lot of events over Zoom. And he actually became I'm going to use some cult language here, the OTC chairman, the deputy OTC chairman for the Americas, which just means that he helps organize these events on top of everything now. So my mother is the chairman. So they work together, and they do sort of tag team events, either at Flag or at the, very rarely. But at DC, they do a lot, and they do a lot of Zoom stuff and a lot of IAS online fundraisers. And they were doing it a lot, like almost every weekend.
So your dad wasn't really asked to help kind of do the heavy lifting on raising the funds until he started to be a celebrity himself and donate more money himself. So your dad's helping raise money for the IAS. He's donating money to the IAS. I want people to understand. So your dad is famous on YouTube. I mean, mostly I would say YouTube. Of course, he's got other social media platforms, but I think it spills over from YouTube. Right. I know you can make a lot of money just doing the videos, but is that where your dad makes his money? How does Dr. Eric Berg make his money?
He sells a lot of his nutritional products, which now are just very like kind of late stage guru sort of shampoo, the best shampoos, or he made like a shampoo and conditioner combo. He has like very basic vitamins that his margins are very high. He has like the highest margins. He was very boastful about how high his profit margins are, because he overcharges for his products.
So he's doing these videos on YouTube. I guess in my mind, I sort of think he does all these keto videos, but is it not just keto stuff that he does?
It's kind of like a dumbed down. I mean, there's a lot of medical misinformation that he communicates, and a lot of doctors, legitimate medical doctors, because Dr. Eric Berg my dad is not a doctor of medicine. He is a chiropractor. He has never he has never sought any further education on the subject, besides sitting in his office chair, being on YouTube or whatever website he's on for about 11 hours a day. So he's not. There have been other medical doctors who debunk a lot of the information that he gives, but in a very closed sort of group, he has cornered this lowest common denominator, kind of like the easiest explanation for something that people can kind of absorb. Kind of how Scientology likes to dumb down important concepts so that you don't have to worry about the details. You just do what he says. And people kind of, without knowing his actual intentions and who he is as a person, they see him as very easy to understand and helpful, when a lot of his information is really hit or miss. And, even working for him, there was a lot of complaints. I dealt with a lot of customer service. I worked for him as at his office, and I trained his keto consultants. I don't think he calls them that anymore, but it's like people who he hired remotely to help him. I would listen to their calls and listen to the complaints that people would bring in, and that his products, weren't working, and they had heard other, medical information. So it's kind of like he acts as like a guru to give people.
But that's like what I'm wondering, like when you say a keto consultant, that's like what I'm thinking, that he's like Mr. Keto. But then you're talking about he's selling a freaking shampoo and conditioner, and I'm like, well, are they drinking it as a part of the keto diet, or is this chiropractor now a shampoo specialist? Because it's like, I mean, I think it might be easy to assume he makes all of his money off of YouTube. I mean, I'm looking at his videos here. He posts multiple videos a day, sometimes 100,000, 150,000, a million, 150,000, a million. I mean, that generates a lot of dollars, but you're saying he really makes his money from selling products, vitamins. Oh, yeah. Is it diet plans? What is it mostly he's selling?
He has this thing called healthy keto, which he's like copywritten healthy keto. And it's like, he knows the right way to do it. And it's supposed to work for every single person if they do it right. But it's so nuanced, and there's so many contradicting pieces. Sometimes he'll make the same video about the same topic, like a year or so apart, and they say completely different things. Or he's kind of like, almost like Scientology, almost like L. Ron Hubbard. He has the right way to do it, and you follow it to the letter, and all of his vitamins are the right vitamins, and it's like his own little keto cult. I mean, not like people who do keto are all that crazy. Everyone tries different things for their health, but my father has a very specific intent for his, to fund his lifestyle, and Scientology especially.
So even if he's making most of his money off of selling merch, vitamins, supplements, things like that, did the success of that particular business come from his YouTube success?
More or less. I mean, now because it's died down quite a bit. Around the time that I made the public aware of his affiliations, he took a pretty steep dive, and it's really funny. I looked into the back end a few months later. I noticed there was a very bizarre trend of his subscriber gain. And I was looking at his, it was evident to me from what I was seeing that he was possibly paying for more subscribers because he had hit a dip once people started realizing he was a Scientologist. And because his interactions are, if he has like almost 9 million subscribers, but he almost never breaks 1 million views. Like very rarely will he break 1 million. You know, there's like an indication there. And on the days that he doesn't get, he just gets like these blocks of like 10,000 subscribers. So to answer your question more directly, it's a mixture of the ads and on YouTube and selling directly, but also he has a lot of Scientology followers who, like, when I was at Flag, and I talked to the MLO, the medical liaison officer at Flag, who does, I guess in some cases they can offer sort of nutritional direction. If somebody's, you know, if the old people are getting too stiff or whatever, they sort of liaise. She referred me to my dad because they all have subscriptions to his vitamins, and they all pool their money together, and they get like these packages from my dad actually had a Sea Org discount that you could call in and you could say, you know, we're in the Sea Org, and they'll give you a discount. So they're a big source of his income. They even had his in the cause resurgence waiting room, they had his electrolytes. Like in the room where you go to prep to be the cause resurgence rundown being another thing, but there's like a little waiting room where everyone's like getting ready to go in, and his electrolytes are there in that room. So he's almost like it's like a self-fulfilling, it's like a self-sealing financial security that, you know, he can. It's just he's giving the money back. He's just taking the money and giving it back.
It is funny to me that Scientology. So you mentioned the MLO. So the MLO is a post in any Scientology org that's usually not staffed, but it's just the person people are supposed to go to for medical problems or any. It's weird because there are literally no qualifications to be the MLO.
I was the MLO at Atlanta.
Right. There's no qualifications. And it's just funny that the MLO is taking advice from Dr. Berg, who's really just looking things up on YouTube, and regurgitating videos, and it does become like a positive feedback loop or whatever. I gotta tell you, I mean, the hate that I've seen, the hate that I've seen in the comments on any conversations that you know, happen about your dad, have a lot of things about like it's very dangerous on the internet to insult chiropractors. Like I made a joke the other day about your dad. I was like, Dr. Eric Berg is a doctor in the way that L. Ron Hubbard is the world's greatest humanitarian. I said, in other words, he's a chiropractor.
In the way that L. Ron Hubbard was a nuclear physicist.
Yeah.
Which
now I said, look, what's wrong with Dr. Berg isn't that he's a chiropractor. It's that most of his viewers think he's a medical doctor. And the hate that I got in the comments was predominantly that chiropractors do exactly as much study about biology or whatever, or you know, whatever, as medical doctors do. I find that incredibly hard to believe, but I can't say that I know what actually they study. My mom was married to a chiropractor for many years. I used to enjoy getting adjustments, but it's kind of like a Scientology auditing session. You think you feel better afterwards, but does it really do anything for you long term? Probably not.
Yeah.
I mean,
like
I was just thinking last night, you know, there's no way an adjustment is different than just cracking your knuckles. You're just cracking your vertebrae. There's no way it's any different. You can't convince me otherwise.
You know, if the science existed, I haven't seen it. I mean, like, and he was never contributing it because, you know, science isn't really important for Scientologists. It's really what feels right, you know?
Yeah.
Feels right. What effect does it give him, you know?
Yeah. They also, I see the comments, you know, it's not, he is a doctor of chiropractic. And I go, no one ever said he wasn't a doctor. We're saying he's not a medical doctor.
This country hands out that title pretty liberally these days. I think it's easy for anyone to assume with just the title, you know, and that's it. The lowest common denominator of people that he can scoop up with just saying, hi, I'm Dr. Berg. Here's what I have to say. This is what you should do. Also buy my supplement. All right. See you in the next video. And then he's out. You know, he'll go into his studio, pump out like 9 videos in a day off the top of his dome for whatever. And you know, 4 of them are completely medically inaccurate.
Right.
And the others are more subjective.
Even these days, a physical therapist can go to school and get a doctorate or a doctorate in the field of physical therapy, and legally they can call themselves a doctor. But if you're a physical therapist, you should not call yourself a doctor. Now let's see how much hate I get in the comments about physical therapists. It's like everyone knows that the reason people call themselves doctor is because people are going to think you're a medical doctor, and people cannot deny that.
Yeah. But anyway, he makes a lot of money, and for a big period of time, he was making. He would lean over. I remember actually specifically we're at when I was training to be an auditor at Flag. I was an out-of-org trainee from Atlanta at Flag. Every Friday they have graduation. This doesn't happen at every org because because there's not a lot of people graduating. Finishing courses. When you finish a course or a thing, you're supposed to get a big certificate. And on Friday nights, they have graduation where you go up on stage and you lift up your thing. You say, look at all these people who finished. Very few orgs do that these days because there's just not enough people finishing. One guy's going to go up there and it's just going to be a waste of everybody's time. But at Flag, they're just like, they have a system, and they bring in all of the Sea Org members and the outer org trainees and the public. A lot of the Sea Org members change their clothes to look like they're public just to fill in the seats in the auditorium. And they have this big ceremony almost. And it's very repetitive. If you go to every single one, they're all exactly the same. And he leaned over one time. He came to visit Flag, and we were sitting in graduation. And he leans over to me and shows me his phone, and he shows me that his yearly income is somewhere around $65 million a year. And that was at the time. I don't know what
I'm just kidding. I know it's not
from whatever the fuck he's doing. But I mean, I just remember.
What was he showing you his tax return? How do you pull up that
Yeah,
number?
like, I mean, he's like, look at how great my stats are. My stats are at an affluence, you know.
Wow, that's a lot of coin there.
Yeah,
a lot of that. Ian, now that you've given that number, he's going to get in trouble for not having donated more.
My mother was very specific about the rules of dealing with the IAS. She knows that they're very, very aggressive, but you can't let them know. You don't want to give it all away right away. You want to play the game. You know,
did your mom say not to tell them how much money he actually makes?
100%. She's very private. They're very secretive about their their lifestyle and how the money that they make and what they spend their money on. I mean, you can do that if you're not funding a human trafficking cult.
Wow.
In my opinion, I think otherwise
let's tackle
it's a great idea.
This question here. I'm guessing at this point, Dr. Berg and his mom have disconnected from Ian. They have, right?
Yes, absolutely they have. And my whole family, really. I have a brother and a sister and 2 nieces who I guess I'll never see again. I think I will see them again probably later on when my brother realizes it's all bullshit. And, the after tax exemption hits the bricks and they all start to, become disillusioned, which I think is inevitable, but maybe I'm just hopeful. They have disconnected from me. They haven't really said a lot, but I actually have gotten notifications from different social media sites that certain posts have been targeted for removal, and there only happen to be the ones that are about my mother or specifically about my dad or something like that. So I think there's they're working behind the scenes to kind of, silently squash me, but I don't really give a fuck.
They had their lawyer send Twitter a letter demanding that one of your tweets be taken down.
Yes, indeed. That was when my mom was. That was for the report I posted. My mom was upset. My dad had been seeing women in thongs on YouTube.
Oh,
how dare he?
That's not all he was seeing.
She did her research, so she knows.
One of the I see another comment here. You should consider not referring to Eric as doctor, as it insinuates he is a medical doctor which he, of course, is not. I'll tell you why I keep doing it. I keep doing it so that people who watch these videos understand we are actually talking about YouTube's Dr. Eric Berg. That's the only reason I keep doing it.
He has a brand and he uses that. He tried to rebrand to the Knowledge Doc, but that was nonsense. It didn't really stick. So Dr. Eric Berg is more of his public title. So like when you hear it, if you don't know this about him, but you've seen his videos, it's just more instant. Like I put quotations when I post anything about him over doctor because, it's just easier.
I'd be happy to call him Cairo Berg, but then, people just wouldn't know who we were talking about. They'd be like, not just call him Eric Berg.
Just call him Eric Eugene because that's his middle name.
So some of the biggest hate that I see, and usually it's on Facebook, I'll tell you, Facebook comments are so much nastier than YouTube comments. I don't know if you ever noticed that.
I stay off Facebook as best I can because it is just a mess over there. Like it's just the craziest. He has his own like private. He's got his private Facebook group for his fans locked down. It was easier to get into the Scientologist Facebook group than it was to get into his, which is actually says everything you really need to know. Is that he keeps a very clear eye, and I actually have a video of him. I have a lot of videos of him over the years, but he treats his Facebook like a little org. Like he'll say this person is questioning, and so he's an SP, kick him out, ban him instantly. He questioned one of my things, ban him. He's an SP, suppress him.
Are you talking about his public Facebook page, or are you talking about a group?
It's called the Dr. Berg Keto and IF Lab, the Keto and Intermittent Fasting Lab. It's like a private group that you can get membership to if you. It's just it's a bordered funnel where he.
Okay, but it is a group. It's a group.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I do have more than one spy in the Scientology Facebook group, and it's a source of never-ending amusement. I've never tried to get into the Dr. Berg group.
I mean, yeah, you mentioned also the field staff member, the FSMing, the people getting commissions off of posts, and all I could think about was, I mean, I don't do it often, but every time I just casually browse through the Scientologist Facebook group, every other post has that little phone, contact me and I'll help you get started today, with their little phone number or their email. And that's literally an FSM tactic. It's basically them saying, I want to make money off of you. So call me so I can get paid for whatever service I'm literally so broke. I spent all my money on Scientology. I need you to, some people, they even use their children, like Tiny Jessica or whatever, wants you to, had a great session today at Mace Kingsley, their child Scientology facility in Clearwater. And she wants to get your kids in session 2, call this number. And it's literally FSMing for children. It is children. It is using your children to get other children to be Scientologically fucked up so that you can get a bag, basically.
Yeah. So,
it's disgusting, but I've been so inundated with it my entire life. It's hard to treat it with the same emotional extremity that a lot of other people seem to.
Totally. So, but I was talking about the hate on Facebook, and where I was going with this is, no matter what you talk about regarding your dad essentially financing what is the family destroying human trafficking cult, there's always going to be people who go, oh my God, I can't believe somebody would talk about their parents this way. This is horrible. How do you respond to right? It's a remarkable amount of comments. It's a remarkable
so many
amount of
people.
comments.
Yeah, people saying, oh, he's your father. You can't, how dare you do that? Or people being like, son, your dad deserves respect. Doesn't matter what he's done. And I'm like, that's bullshit. Because, well, I mean, frankly, it sounds like somebody hasn't done any research on modern psychology and what child abuse contains. It's hard to feel sympathetic towards someone who systematically, I mean, a pair of people, my mother is by no means excluded from this, but, you know, as a team, systematically removing my ability to have any self-confidence. I mean, I'm going to therapy now, and it's actually light years more effective and helpful than anything I've ever experienced in Scientology, because it's based on evidence and facts and results that are quantifiable by actual measuring, you know. Anyway, these people, it's my life, and they did a lot of damage, and they had no intention of stopping the damage. My sister even, you know, sent me some very disgusting emails, telling me how mean and toxic I am because I stood up for myself, because I stood up for what I felt was wrong, you know, or what I felt was right, you know, for myself. I felt like what he was funding was, what my father was funding was wrong. I felt what Scientology has been doing is wrong. I've done wrong things and justified them. I've hurt people in the name of Scientology emotionally. I'm not a, you know, I'm not just like beating the intensives out of people. But, you know, and as an auditor, I did a lot of, you know, secret polling. I did a lot of interrogations. I did a lot of controlling. I did a lot of, and the reflections on that. It does something to you, and you see it for what it is. So I don't think my parents think that they're evil. I don't think that they think that they're doing what they're doing to hurt people. But until they open their eyes and realize that there is more than one side to consequences, you know, there's like more than one solution, rather than body thetans and ancient galactic Marcab confederacies with rocket cars, and they're all wearing fedoras, and, you know, the contradictions.
Didn't your dad say that one of the reasons he was able to, I guess, had some sort of a native intuition on the subject of health was because he was one of the beings who guided the evolution of the human body over millions of years? Didn't he say something like that?
No, it wasn't a guided evolution. He was there when they made bodies, when they just put the pieces. He was one of the beings, one of the thetans who was floating around, and he was just putting, you know, well, they should have a liver, obviously, and, well, probably put some kidneys in there. One's probably not enough. Just put 2 in there to be safe, and make sure that. So he the way he described it, I remember he was doing this one course, The Factors, which is like Scientology's beginning of time sort of thing, and he was so confused. He's like, you know, I'm reading this thing and I just don't understand, because it doesn't really answer my question. It doesn't really go there. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know what to tell you. I didn't write it. And you just kind of move on. But he sort of, I guess, justified it like, you know, you make up your own little lore for your past lives. I'm sure he was disappointed to find out that that was not even his past life. Later on, when he went OT, those are just the body thetans' lives.
That's funny.
It's just like such a crazy, convoluted system. And, you know, he seems to be having a great time with it, though.
All right, let's look at Kate Olson's comment. Hey, Kate, how you doing? Did you guys know Dr. Eric Berg advised the Sea Org against the COVID vaccine before all Sea Org members were required to get vaccinated?
So I don't know this as a fact, but what I do know, I know 2 things. I know, one, Scientologists trust the word of Dr. Berg almost as much as they trust LRH, the word of LRH. I mean, in a medical context, because he's like such an affluent Scientologist. And 2, Dr. Berg is a like voracious anti-vaxxer. He is he keeps all of his most extreme opinions off air. But when COVID was starting, he would send me these like bizarre emails with weird fonts and being like, you know, the vaccine, the Chinese vaccine with the man-made virus. And it's just like the most, and then sending me these weird, like very political almost meaningless videos about how, like, from these random fringe YouTube accounts of how the vaccine is poison. They thought that, like, they were putting microchips in the vaccine to track your movements. And I was like, what do you have in your pocket? Is that a phone? Yeah. They don't need to bug you. Everything that they need from you is in your phone right now. So
Yeah.
I don't think that's even remotely what you should be worried about.
It's funny, this idea that some public had, that if only David Miscavige had been better educated or advised on the subject of the vaccines, he would not have required SEERG members to become vaccinated. There's actually a local Clearwater Scientologist named Patrick Volton, who I'm surprised didn't get himself declared, because he was going around. I'm hearing a slight echo on myself, but I wasn't before.
Oh, are you? It's weird.
Did you have any earphones in before?
I did not, but my speakers can sometimes. I'll just turn my speakers down a little bit.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Patrick Volton had gone around to Scientologists, not just in Clearwater, but all over the world, and essentially got them to sign on to an open letter demanding that David Miscavige not require SEERG members to get vaccinated. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, this is the best. This is the fastest way for you to get declared and expelled, and you don't even know it. You don't even know the landmine you're stepping on right now. To even because for a public Scientologist to even imply that David Miscavige wouldn't know the right people to consult or didn't have his own secret experts on it.
Every time I watch one of your videos where you describe your frustration, or you describe, like, that David Miscavige knows more than people think he does, or more than he says he does, I constantly think of how many, like, Scientologists at the time I was leaving were using the RTC report system, the website that they have to report RTC, and also that RTC was doing tours in almost every org. There is a permanent RTC staffing in Flag. There's a big fogged glass thing on, like, the third floor room where all the RTC members are, and they all directly report to David. And he's like, everyone's telling you while you're in, Dave COB has a plan for that. You know, he's very clearly the one making the decisions. There is no greater fear than David Miscavige putting his eyes on
real quick. So the third floor of the Superpower building, or the Flag building, that is where the RTC rep offices are. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. So when you are in the Fort Harrison, and there's a bridge that connects both buildings. When you walk across the bridge it walks you into the second floor, and there's, like, a staircase that goes up, and there's a staircase that goes down, and then you take a right and you go into the atrium, and but you can see, like, the whole big area with the big statues and all that. But if you go up the stairs, it's immediately to your left. It is
so there you
unmissable.
go.
There's a big RTC logo. There's a RTC box right there that if you do a report, the lady will come out and she'll be like, do you need help reporting this to RTC? And I'll be like, actually, thank you for being here, but no thanks, I'm good. And, like, they wander the halls, and you can tell because they wear black vests instead of blue.
So let me ask you this, since we're on the subject. The corner of the Superpower building, the northwest corner, which is actually the corner closest to the Fort Harrison Hotel, David Miscavige, according to the blueprints and everything, David Miscavige has his personal offices there. Now, I don't remember if that would be a fifth floor or a sixth floor or whatever, but the question is this: when you were at Flag and you were in the Superpower building, did you have knowledge of David Miscavige having any personal offices in that building?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, they never talked about. They never talk about where David Miscavige is, and if you're asking where he is, why are you asking that? What do you have? What are you trying to? Who are you? It's like,
okay.
What do you want?
So the third floor offices that you're talking about, that's for the RTC reps. Those are the people who work directly for David Miscavige. But just
there's a maglocked set of doors in the back of the office where they all go in and they all come out. So there could be a staircase. There's elevators everywhere. There's secret elevators. There's almost every single door that isn't a hallway is maglocked.
Right.
Or like
Right,
the
right,
public
right.
restrooms aren't, but like you
Yeah.
need a key card.
Yeah. So we got off onto all that because there were so many public who were convinced that the only reason Miscavige was asking Sea Org members or mandating that they get vaccinated, and those who wouldn't get vaccinated were kept in isolation until they agreed to get vaccinated, was because he was just being fed wrong information. But imagine how, if you're a Scientologist, how insulting that is. You agree? That's a pretty quick way to try to get yourself expelled.
Yeah, you don't want to give people the idea that there's some other something that contradicts either COB or especially L. Ron Hubbard.
Right.
That would you that's not up to you. So
Right.
you're not going to lead us anywhere. You're going to get the fuck out.
Did
only
your
one
dad,
person leads us.
I mean, but you mentioned earlier that some Scientologists, when it comes to health, nutrition, and whatever, take the word of Dr. Berg over the word of L. Ron Hubbard or David Miscavige or whatever. Did your dad ever say anything like that to you?
He knows that. I mean, he knows that he's trustworthy. You know, he once told me that he thought his reputation was bulletproof because he gives out so much free information and he's helping mankind, and nothing can ever. As he's a very pretentious, vain person, not very bright in in other ways, but I do remember him. He likes to send. He would like to send us, his kids, like chain emails of reviews on his videos, like, I used to believe in God, but now Eric Berg, you are my God. And at Flag, one of the main reasons that I was treated as sort of a quasi VIP, not when I was an OOT or an outer or trainee, not really then, because you're lower than human shit if you're on the training program. But when I came back for some services, they knew that he was a high donor and that he was very public. So everyone who knew, I barely had a name. I was Dr. Berg's son. I barely had a first name myself, So it was kind of
that I'm guilty of doing that in the title of this video.
It's fine. It is what it is. It's a tool.
Oh, here's one. I saw a comment. I actually thought about this when I was saying this earlier. Anyone who is a PhD has a doctor. So yes. But in the world of academia, when you call yourself a doctor, it's assumed you have a PhD. People don't assume that, Dr. Smith and, teaching history is a medical doctor.
Yeah. When Dr. Berg is like talking about how eggs are bad because for whatever fucking reason, and he has a doctor in front of his names, or like he has this whiteboard where he like pre-writes all this stuff and makes it look very, he doesn't much do that. He's actually he's like, he's actually rolled back a lot of his activities. He's now, he spends most of his time in a remote farm that they bought in Southern Virginia. He doesn't actually spend a lot of time in his studio. But he would do all these things. And when you see doctor, you're like, it's always promoting eggs. It's funny.
What's the deal with your dad and eggs?
You got to ask him. I have no fucking idea. He said so many things that like, it gets pretty funny, seeing people's reaction, but
you don't grow eggs.
He does have chickens. So he will not shut the fuck up about his chickens. These eggs will actually, they're dark. And that's how you know that they're better than any eggs you can buy. And it's like,
oh,
anyway,
that's funny.
But either way, when you see doctor in those videos, it gives us a false impression, which is another reason there's been an uprise of people who are criticizing his medical knowledge from a point of actual medical doctors and things, which I can appreciate.
Yeah. I assume this question.
I actually have a funny story about this question.
Maybe they're asking this because you were at Flag or just because your dad was a celebrity, but go ahead. What's your answer here?
There's one girl I met from this show Riverdale who was a Scientologist, and she, I forget what her name is, but she was like friends with my dad at one point. There was actually, if I can tell this quick story, where I have seen Tom Cruise around the base.
Marisol Nichols?
Yes, Marisol Nichols, that's her name. And one time I was sitting with a girl named Sonia. She's one of the regs. She was my dad's registrar. She's the person who gets you to pay for the services and takes your credit card, the reg, basically. I was sitting on the couch with my dad right before the bridge. So like there's like a little in the Fort Harrison, there's like a little like couches where like on either side of this staircase where you come up and then you can cross the bridge over into Flag. And I'm sitting there and Tom Cruise walks in and walks right up to us and he's like, hold on, I'm really sorry. I'm sorry to do this. I'm sorry to just cut your comm, like interrupt your conversation or your communication. That's what they say. Sorry to cut your comm. And then he just reaches over and hugs Sonia. He's like, oh, I just want to hug you. I just want to hug you right there. And his sister's, Tom Cruise's sister was standing in the back. And he's just, I just want to say, you're just great. You're just so good. And then he just ignores us and just walks the fuck away. And I'm just like standing there like, and at the time, you know, I grew up on like Top Gun and shit. And I was like, what the fuck just happened? Oh my God. He's a very small man. He's very short. I did not anticipate. I mean, I'm a tall guy, but he is shockingly small. But even in Flag, he has his bodyguards with him almost everywhere he goes.
Really?
Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned him being so tight with Sonia. Like, what is that word? It's almost where you form a bond with your abuser. Maybe Stockholm syndrome is what I'm thinking of.
Something like that, yeah.
But these big money guys in Scientology end up having like what borders on close to a love affair, minus the physical interaction, with the people responsible for sucking them dry of money. And I guess it makes sense if you think of it the other way around. The reason these top fundraisers are so good is because they're very adept at creating these like deep emotional connections with the people they're sucking dry of money.
There is actually a psychological phenomena in the world of cults where when you do these small actions early on, you know, they say, well, I mean, what could hurt from just trying this small thing, right? And even if there's like a little resistance or hesitation, you're like, this seems weird, but I'll try it. There's an initial compromise with reality, with your reality. You compromise to that small degree, which then pressures you later on to compromise again. And the bigger these compromises become, the more you start to do, the more you give, the more you indenture yourself, the more you say, well, I'm not a fucking idiot. I donated $7 million. I'd have to be a fucking moron to donate $7 million to these people and have them lie to me, to be scammed out of all my money. And that makes sense because you'd have to be a fucking moron to be scammed out of $7 million. But you know, it's happening right now.
Trauma bond is the other word that I was going to use. I just think that refers
like
more to people who go through a hardship together.
Yeah. That's like,
as opposed to
two people bond over the same bad thing happening to themselves. But this is more of like a coercive agreement. Like, you know, the more narcissistic you are, the easier it is to just get lost in it.
Did Dr. Eric Berg complain that Tom Cruise did not recognize the one and only Dr. Berg, or was your dad not there with you at this time?
He was just surprised. He had never seen a person more famous than Tom Cruise until that very moment.
Your dad was with you?
Yeah, he was sitting right next to me. He didn't.
Tom Cruise did not recognize him though.
Not even. It just didn't even register to him. He was, he has his sunglasses on constantly. So
Tom did in the inside.
Inside, I've never seen this man without his glasses on. Inside, yes.
Oh, he's that much of a douche. Oh my God.
and he has his own special elevator, and because they built a VIP auditing section in Flag with nicer rooms and exclusive auditors, he can just go right up there. But he didn't recognize my dad a lick.
Wow. So Tom Cruise was walking around with bodyguards, even in the Fort Harrison Hotel, where no one is allowed in unless you're a Scientologist.
Yeah, I mean, John Travolta, I saw him a few times. I've seen him a few times over the years. He has his own, he has a room that he usually stays in the FH, and he doesn't need bodyguards. Yeah. I mean, he's not Tom Cruise, but then there's that whole fame differential and who's better friends with COB, and the closer you get to David Miscavige, the more I realized the more pressure is on you. I was one of my supervisors when I was training was David Miscavige's niece. And
Which one?
She
Which one?
We were so tight too. She's married to what's his name? I really should have prepped that, but this story
right,
kind of
right.
I did. Anyway, her name will come to me, but she was doing training as well, and I remember her being very upset that she had to train, because what I didn't know is that because she was David Miscavige's niece, she was trained exclusively by RTC. And they hovered over her. There were several RTC members hovering over her when she was doing her e-meter drills and when she was doing her things. And she got all that, like, they were not, she could not make a single mistake.
Otherwise, by the way, let's be clear. You're definitely not talking about Jenna Miscavige, just for the people.
No. It was I even have her number in my contacts. What? I mean,
by the way, people with blue eyes don't have to wear sunglasses inside. I'm sorry.
Nobody needs to wear sunglasses. You know how well lit that building is?
I have blue eyes.
It's not dangerous for, if he's throwing himself off planes, this man can take his sunglasses off inside. I'm sorry.
Yeah, he wasn't wearing sunglasses when he was standing on the wing of that plane. If you can do that without sunglasses, you can walk through the Fort Harrison Hotel without sunglasses.
Exactly. I mean, it was fun. I mean, I wasn't really questioning that. I was more awestruck at the time just because it was, Tom Cruise. It's the one guy you're like, where is he when you go to Flag, and you usually don't see him until you see him, and you're like, oh shit. But you are very, and I learned this as a child, you are never ever allowed to bother them under any circumstances. I have a
bother who?
What? Bother
who?
Celebrities. VIPs or celebrities, Tom Cruise, John Travolta. Unless they come up to you, or unless you can hey, but like don't like walk up to them and fight story.
It's funny.
If we had another hour.
We talk about bothering celebrities. I once, when I was still probably like maybe 11 or 12, anyway, the whole family took a trip to the Celebrity Center in LA, and we walk into the Celebrity Center and John Travolta's right there. And my stepbrother, who at that time was just a very obnoxious person, like from completely on the other side of the reception, goes, "Hey, John!" And oh man,
yeah. But you're drinking into your own body. Like when I was a child, we were at the Sandcastle restaurant, which is it's near the it's on the other side. It's of Clearwater. And we were sitting there, and around the corner, John Travolta was eating dinner with his family. They put up curtains around his dinner table. And I remember being like, oh my God. I was like, I don't know, I must have been like 8 or something. And I was like, oh, John Travolta, he was in, oh, that's so cool. I wish I could say hi. And my mom was like, no, you're not allowed to go over. He's enjoying his peaceful religious retreat. And if you go over there, and I started crying because I was a child, and she got really upset at me. And I was, I don't know why I cried. I'm sure I was just like being a kid, but they go out of their way. I mean, now it's not so much, because now they have a bunch of back doors that celebrities can travel through so that they don't get spotted by the public. But you'll see them around if you hang around long enough.
All right, so this is a good one for us to spend a little bit on, and then we'll end on this note. What's some of the best smack your folks have spoken?
Tara is her name.
Tara is Miscavige's niece, and I remember, like, so she must be married to one of Biddy's stepkids or something, or Ronnie's stepkids or something like this.
He was the DFT. So he was the director of training for the public. And he had this name. He was just like he was just some guy, but Tara, Anyway, but you were saying,
Stefan, what's some of the best smack your folks have talked about Scientology or David Miscavige or the fundraising, anything like that?
I don't think they've ever said anything to me about David Miscavige, although they've made it clear that when they were going to see him, like when he was going to present, my mom being this OT committee chairman for the Americas, which is just North and South America. She doesn't speak Spanish at all, so I don't know what help she's doing in South America, but I'm sure she has a liaison for that as well. She's a translator probably. You know, she would get invited to these briefings, these private briefings, mostly held at Flag, or where David Miscavige would be, or as high donators, there's this thing that they do where the IAS will have a sort of vacation in Italy concept where you spend you donate $100,000, and you are then you're invited to go to Italy and talk with a bunch of other whales, and all the other high-paying Scientologists are there, and they're getting wined and dined and going out on the town, and it's a very bizarre thing. But I think David Miscavige was also at these events.
I've never heard of this.
My dad would not shut the fuck up about it. Honestly, after that, he could not stop talking about Italy. The tomatoes are just so good, and it's like you can eat the pasta. It's not even bad for you. And it's like, I don't really care, because like every Italian person I've ever met was a Scientologist up to that point, and they were all awful people. Not that Italians are innately awful, but a lot of the Scientologists, especially the Sea Org members, who, they're just very to the point. They're very angry. They're very aggressive. They're just very cut. They don't give a shit about you. So, but anyway, but over the years, they've said a lot of shit. They've complained a lot of IAS slander, especially because they get annoyed when the IAS send them awards, these giant gilded globes and these rare books and these bouquets, edible arrangements at random times to their house, because which I suppose is just it's validating the all of their shit, all their donations. But she doesn't know how to tell them to fuck off, because not only do they want to reach certain statuses, but they'll say that they can't donate in one place to then donate in another place, and then, or they'll like set it up beforehand. Anyway, they do not like getting asked for money, which is ironic, because they give so much of their money to a human trafficking cult. You would think that they'd just be giving it to every Scientologist that's around, but no, that's not how it works.
So they never spoke any crap about Miscavige himself.
No, I mean I've heard them. My mom was very upset that she was false clear attested twice, which means she was given the something called an R factor. So it's basically telling you where you are in Scientology. It's like, this is your situation. Somebody sits you down and they say, I'm going to R factor you. I'm going to tell you where you're at. And, she's been told she's gone clear twice, gone up to graduate, told everybody, did the whole speech. And then she was then told, no, actually, you have to do it again. We did something. You're not actually clear. You have to do it again. You have to do something. You did something wrong. That happened twice. And not only did she pay for both, then after, she paid for her OT levels when she was on OT7 for like 3 years or something like that.
Wow.
But they complain a lot about, how the tech is being misapplied to them, but never.
But they don't blame Miscavige for that, right?
They don't tell me if they do. I mean, they've been they're their own unit. I'm just a guy in the room. Like, they wanted me to pay rent when I was like 12. So I don't think they wanted me to be a part of their situation. You know, they keep they're very private and they're very critical, but it's hard to see past when you're like, once you say his name, you know it's going to come up later. You know, you're going to have to tell them, and they've done a lot of, I'm sure now they've gotten interrogated up to high heaven. I remember right after I came out, as just a short thing, right after I came out with the with my video that saying he was a Scientologist, I heard that they mysteriously just disappeared for a month. They just dropped their dog at a friend's house, and they had to take a trip. And all of my dad's videos were in some strange, different place, some hotel room, and I just could picture them being accosted, to flag, to be probably sec checked by every RTC member that could be there.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, probably, I mean, a lot of that sec checking was probably trying to dig up as much dirt on you as they could, in addition to whatever's already in your auditing folders and ethics files. They're probably like, all right, let's bleed these rocks dry of all the dirt we can get on Ian. I mean, have you checked? Did they have a website up on you yet?
I was just thinking, and I was in the shower. I was like, man, they just can't afford, with all these legal debacles, to put up another website, forgetting that it's free labor for them because they're using Sea Org members. But I'm sure my dad would pay for it all out of pocket. He'd have to. It would be making amends to pay for my hate website. I mean, compared to my parents, I'm a saint. But I've also been made to believe in my life, and I'm sure that they'll come out and say this and that. And, I'm sure if they want to, they can make up some story, or they can lie, and they can get my sister to act very serious, or my brother to tell, even though everything was almost peachy, like the day before I left. It's a very hostile switch, and you become the enemy very quickly. But I don't give a fuck.
Yeah,
I'm
good.
I'm actually good. Learning, or I've learned that all of my almost all of my insecurities and my doubts and my self-hatred and all the things that I thought were some evil, horrible actions, they came directly from the cult.
Yeah.
And you get a sense of relief when you realize just how much manipulation is at hand. And it's frustrating because, you can't save everybody.
Yeah,
but
it's true.
I think Scientology, will destroy itself in short order.
Yeah. So I'll tell you what, let's take a look at this real quick. Do you think the real reason Tom Cruise is shooting a movie on the International Space Station is that if necessary, he and DM can escape into outer space and go find LRH?
I actually have a more nuanced theory. And because LRH isn't in space, he would just be on Target 2, which is the planet that from a young age, my mother was telling me that L. Ron Hubbard is at. He moved on to the next planet, and we're going to meet up with him there, kind of like a Heaven's Gate-esque with less suicide. Although there is a lot of suicide in Scientology. Either way, what was I saying? Right. I think that Tom Cruise is going to try to make Elon Musk a Scientologist, or at least he's going to use that connection to, they're gonna kind of bolster each other, and he's gonna try to get some more support from Elon Musk and try to weasel his way in there. I think because he's working with SpaceX to do this.
Is he working with SpaceX? I mean, I guess he'd have to. There's no one else launching.
That was the first thing I heard when Elon Musk, SpaceX, is going to send Tom Cruise. I remember hearing about this while I was still in Scientology. And then I was like, oh, that's so sick. Elon Musk must be like a cool guy. But, we learned.
So I think if Tom actually shoots this movie on the ISS, that's actually going to be a giant coup for Scientology. I mean, if you thought Top Gun 2 was a big deal, just wait for the first movie to actually be shot in space. It's kind of a big freaking deal.
Yeah, which there's a lot of consequences that come to that socially. You also have a lot of, I mean, these people don't give a shit about cult victims or people who suffer in this way. They don't understand. They think, oh, it's just an actor. You know, his other stuff, that's his own, you know, everyone has crazy religions. It's like, no, but there are people who dedicate their lives, their professional and academic lives, to defining what cultic behaviors are and what cults look like and what sets a cult apart from like any other religion. Because Scientologists do this thing where they'll be like, oh, a cult's just a group where you're just highly devoted and then I am in a cult because I am devoted. It's like, no, but there's a tail end that talks about like pressure and coercive control. And anyway, they're going to platform a human trafficking cult if they put him in space, and more people are going to be trafficked because they're going to see this thing. And let me tell you, every fucking Scientologist and their mother, and apparently their children, are going to be talking about this thing that is only superficially.
It's hard to know how it plays out. Like, it's hard for me to say that someone's actually going to join Scientology because Tom Cruise went to space. But here's what it will do. It's going to set off an avalanche of Scientology ridicule online. The fact that Tom is going to space and be like, Tom's going to meet the mothership. Like, there'll be entire series spawned, comedic satirical series spawned, crapping on Scientology because of this. So, I mean, I know I said it'll be a big deal, but I don't know if it's gonna cause anyone to join Scientology. I mean,
I think it'll be. I think it'll be another one of those. But see what Scientologists are doing when you have some weaker members who are like seeing that they're doing bad stuff or something's not working or they can't afford it. I mean, I've heard some people like next to me say to my face, like, I'm $200,000 in debt, but I feel so good. I'm like, that sounds really bizarre because I feel like shit every single day and I'm doing the same stuff. I had tested Declare like yesterday and now everyone's throwing the whip at me again.
Yeah. Hey, do you have a public Gmail address that you use for people to contact you?
Let me burn one. I have a few. I'm around the internet, so I do have a few emails that we can or just one. Here, let me find one. If I do not actually,
I'll tell you what. If you think of one that you want to use, let me know. I'll put it in the comments. I'll put it in the description of the video.
You can follow me on Twitter or Instagram. I check all of I look at all the stuff. I can't reply to everything. But if you want to reach out to me, you can. I'm on Twitter and I'm on Instagram, on TikTok. AGM. Ooh, that could be a whole other.
What is AGM?
I have a lot of. It's a marketing company run by a guy named Manuel Suarez, who actually handles my father's marketing. Or, I mean, he almost barely does. I mean, his marketing, they did almost nothing for them. Anyway,
why would this guy know that you have tea on AGM though? Where's that coming from?
Because he's actually on, because I worked for my dad and I actually talked to the marketing guys a lot, and he on their website, he's one of the people. He's like one of the reviews. Also, Nancy Cartwright is managed by them, but she's actually a higher priority for them than my dad, which is funny.
Yeah. Well, if you have any actual specific stuff on AGM you want to talk later about, we could do a dedicated thing on that maybe.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we can do a whole. I've been around the block, so to speak, and
okay,
yeah,
all right. This last comment, and I've seen like 16 mentions of the Cracker Jack unit for some reason. Are you afraid to discuss the Cracker Jack unit in the GO at the FLB? Okay, let's get something straight. I was born in 1980. The GO ceased to exist before I was born. I am not an expert.
I've never even heard of that.
The GO?
No.
The Guardian's office. It's what Mary
Oh,
Sue is the head of.
the Guardians. Oh, yeah, we didn't call it. They
Okay.
never said the GO. Guardian's
Now-
office is like a bad word when you're in the church.
Yeah, you're not allowed to supposed to mention that.
Yeah.
And the Crackerjack unit did carry over to the CMO. Could the Crackerjack unit is just some people
Sounds
who are
goofy as
sect
fuck.
checkers, like, and then you're supposed to believe that there's some like extra special sect checker when everyone follows the same sect checking procedure. There's no such thing as
Yeah.
you might have someone who's better at sect checking for some reason, but the Crackerjack unit, I never even understood what it was for specifically.
I think they changed it to case cracking unit because
no, totally different. Totally different.
is that different? I mean, they
Totally
have
different.
those now,
The
but it's not
Crackerjack
really.
unit is specifically sect check and ethics and justice based to like go and it's like you sick the Crackerjack unit on someone. The case cracking unit, you're selling that shit to public. So I didn't know anything about the GO other than what you can read in books or see in interviews from Mike Rinder and
I will say I have seen a couple people who were carryovers from the Guardian's office who were ex-Guardian's office and who are still in Scientology, and those guys are messed up. Those guys are not well mentally. They are just like shells. I've working with them, and it's like you can hear an echo of your voice in their rattle around in their skull. It's very sad, but at the time you're just like, oh, this guy, no wonder he's all like that.
All right, well, we've had a good run here, and an hour just flew by, so that's cool. And so let's leave it at that. And when we figure out what we want to talk about next, you will see us again. So, Ian, do you have a channel I can tell people to subscribe to?
I do have a YouTube channel. I will be posting at some point. I'm taking a bit of a content break personally, but I will be returning very soon. And it's
what's the channel?
It's my name on YouTube. It's Ian Rafalco on YouTube, and Ian Rafalco basically everywhere else. It's RAFALKO.
Awesome. All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us, and have a wonderful evening. We'll see you next time.
Okay, if you want to see my rock and roll songs, click right on this guitar. And if you want to see a different one of my videos, then you could click right